Hello, welcome back. In this module we're going to be connecting my CORIOgrapher software to my CORIOmaster 2 unit behind me. So you can see all of my units. What I'm going to do is I'm going to log into it. So it's admin pw, and I'm going to log in. I'm going to read the settings. I've got the options of sending my previous configuration I made offline, reading, or connecting. Now, read is what I'm going to do now, so it's reading all the settings off the wall behind me. But if I do want to go through this process, if I just wanted to test commands out using the console, which is here down at the bottom right, I could just connect, so it just saves me a little bit of time if you're testing an automation system. Now, you can right away see that I've got a mirror of what's going on behind me on the software. Now, there's a few things I want to show you before we get to setting displays and windows in a future video. Some just good housekeeping practices that will save you a lot of time. Let's go down to settings. Now, there's some really useful things to show you. So the first one is on the top level here. This is where we name our unit. So I've called it training room, so anybody here in the R&D Centre of Excellence can see that it's the training room unit. Likewise, I can see all of theirs as well. So that's really useful if you're doing a cookie cutter installation. Maybe you have CORIOmaster installed in several rooms, then you can quickly see which one you're logging on. And in that situation, it's really cool because you can actually copy settings from room to room as well. The next thing is preset easing. This basically controls the dynamic of window movement when we're firing presets. So with it on, the window, if it's got a duration that it's going to move across, it will speed up from the original position to full speed, and then it will slow down into the final position. With this off, it just goes in a straight speed from one position to the next. There's a bunch of stuff down here that we're going to look at in a future video when we look at different control methods, including HTTPS. So I'll go past that. This is the configurator for the modules. So this will show you how my unit is set up behind. So I'm set up for 3 canvases, but actually this module and this module are set up on 1 canvas. So effectively this has made this into a 2 canvas system. The reason I designed this unit like this is it does give me flexibility later to be able to split this out into 3 canvases. Here are my inputs. I've got a mixture of media and streaming modules, dual 4K ins, and I've also got some SDI, and I've got a card that can handle legacy formats, including VGA, composite video, S-video, that sort of thing. There's an EDID manager. We'll talk about EDID manager in a future video. Essentially, I can read an EDID, I can convert it to an 8.3 file format, and then push it back in. I'll show you where we access that later. Resolution editor we're going to cover in a future video as well, but if you watch the first video in this little series, you'll notice I mentioned it was in CorioDiscover as well. This is one of the places it exists directly in CORIOgrapher as well. This is CORIOgrapher, so the log, and what the log refers to is what I record in the console. So all of this information I can record from login right up to the current moment. I can make the log as long as I like, and that's really useful if you were to have an issue with your CORIOmaster and you wanted us to help provide you some customer support, then that's a really useful file to have, as is the config of the system. So send us those 2 things in a short video. It really, really helps us. This is the default unit. So I previously mentioned we have inches and millimeters. We also have pixels as well. I've got 4 users that I can have, and they can have separate logins. I'm logged on as the administrator at the moment. That was the admin pw password by default. The one thing I do when I'm setting up is I disable the timeout. Otherwise, what will happen is you'll partway through setting something up and you maybe have waited for the default of 5 minutes and the system will log out. So I normally leave that and I turn that off while I'm setting up. The other users you can have are users and power users. So a user can do everything I'm going to do in these videos apart from set passwords. Only an administrator can do that, and a user can only control the unit using the dashboard. So there you go, and that's really useful. Having 4 users is pretty handy. I can have one person using CORIOgrapher, and maybe 3 separate control panels. Remember, I've got multiple canvases I can go to on CORIOmaster 2, so that's really handy. I can have controls in separate rooms, and administrator can also connect. Backup and restore. When we did our update of our firmware through CorioDiscover, it would automatically do it. If I want to back up during a project, this is where I do it. Now, system tells me about the system. System health is a window we only have in Coriomaster 2, and it tells me the temperature of the system, how the fans are working, that sort of thing. Slot status is my go-to menu in settings. So it's got all my sources and all my displays. Now, you'll notice I've named everything in here. This is the easiest way to save yourself a lot of time when you're installing a unit, is to name everything. And that's the first thing I'll do. I'll come in here and I'll name all the sources, and I'll check that they go on the wall. I also, if you come across like Blu-ray 1, you can see that it's found the HDMI, and it's found the resolution as well. And if I come down here, some of these are invalid because they've not been found, because there's nothing plugged in there. So what we do is we tell you whether it's okay or invalid, and we measure the resolution as well. We can also see about HDCP values as well, so I can turn that on and off, and I can also set a different version. So if I've got a module that's capable of working in 1.4 and 2.2, I can select that. Sometimes you'll get an invalid setting here, but you'll have an odd resolution over here. That is because that resolution table I showed you in the CorioDiscover video, it's referring to that on the input and the output. So if it's a slightly different frame rate from something in our table, it will show up as invalid, although we'll try and show it on the wall. So you can see I've labeled everything here. I've also labeled everything on the walls. I've got wall top left, top center, top right down here, and I've got some side screens that I'm working on for a future video as well. So this is my go-to menu when I'm setting up a system. If I'm struggling to get all my sources on the wall, this is the first place I go to check. There's a constraint, so this is showing me I've got 64 windows I can put on this canvas, and that varies between Coriomaster 2, Coriomaster, Coriomaster Micro and Coriomaster Mini. This will change. They all have 50 presets. And the last menu here is for the front panel. Now I can affect a few things here on my Coriomaster 2 that's behind me in the rack. First thing I can do is change the brightness of the backlit chevrons. Now what I'll do is I'll turn these right down and refresh it. But of course, normally I'm at a trade show or a partner location. I want the Coriomaster 2 to be seen in the rack, so I'll leave that up. The other thing, there's a display on the front of the unit, and I can change what it says there, and also the brightness of that as well. Okay, let's go back to the editor. Now, in a future video, I'm going to show you how to set this up from scratch. The last thing I want to show you for now is this really handy tool, the test pattern generator. And this is really useful if you haven't got sources hooked up yet. And I'll fire this over to test pattern, and I'll push take. And the wall behind me has now gone to test patterns. And you can fire up different test patterns if you want to. If you're looking at API document, and I'll talk about this in a future video, but you can find it at api.tvone.com. In the console, you can come in here and you can type in a command and change the color bar pattern. So that's all I'm going to show you for this video. Come back in the next series, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how we add the displays and then add windows on top of it. But for now, thanks very much for watching. See you in the next video. Bye bye.